Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Have you ever stopped to actually think about how an entire country keeps track of its economic heartbeat? If you're picturing some massive supercomputer seamlessly crunching numbers in real time, well, you'd actually be wrong. Right now, it's mostly just a delayed, highly fragmented mess of paper trails and completely incompatible software. But today, we're unpacking a really fascinating policy proposal that aims to completely transform our economic operating system. It's called the National Billing Software, or NBS. We're going to look at how this proposed infrastructure shifts a nation from a sluggish, retroactive accounting system to a real-time, authenticated transaction network. So if you love understanding the hidden gears that make economies run efficiently, you are definitely in the right place.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to hit 4 main points today. First, the broken billing system. Second, the dual NBS architecture. Third, the 36-month rollout plan. And finally, fraud prevention and economic intelligence.
All right, starting off with part 1, the broken billing system, and specifically its fragmentation and structural gaps. To really understand the solution here, we first need to look at the environment we're currently living in. Now, billing is basically the foundational layer of any economy, right? But the crazy thing is, there is no unified national standard for how an invoice is actually created, recorded, or reported. Businesses are using completely incompatible software systems, or sometimes literally just pen and paper. And this fragmentation causes some massive cascading systemic problems. We're talking massive tax leakage because of unrecorded or underreported transactions. There's an entire, frankly, absurd shadow ecosystem of fake and duplicate invoices that enable money laundering and input tax credit fraud. And on top of all that, small and medium enterprises carry this incredibly heavy accounting burden just trying to comply with complex, delayed reporting cycles. And as for government planners, well, they're essentially flying blind. They have to rely on aggregate economic data that is weeks or even months stale. The root cause of all of this is simply the absence of real-time authentication at the exact point a bill is issued. Now, before anyone panics about government overreach, let's read a defining quote directly from the proposal. NBS does not nationalize business software. It establishes a mandatory synchronization mechanism. Every official bill must be generated via NBS for it to carry legal validity. What's really fascinating about this core principle is how neatly it disarms the skeptics. This proposal isn't about forcing every single company to abandon their custom enterprise software or their preferred point-of-sale systems. No, businesses keep complete, 100% private operational freedom. What changes is simply that the legitimacy of the billing becomes nationally standardized through a synchronization process.
So, how does this actually work technically? Let's move to part 2, the dual NBS architecture, which includes the core system and the synchronization layer. What's really brilliant about this proposed architecture is how it's designed to accommodate absolutely everyone, from a micro trader on the street corner all the way up to a massive multinational enterprise. It's split into 2 main components. On one side, you have component A, the core system. Think of this as the free, direct tool for the little guys. It's a government-provided, standard billing engine that comes complete with tax computation and formatting. It literally reduces the cost of compliance to 0 for new entrants and small businesses. Then, on the other side, component B acts as a sturdy API bridge, and that's called the synchronization layer. This one is for the medium to large enterprises. It just quietly sits in the background, translating and connecting a business's existing private accounting software directly to the national network.
Let's narrate a quick day in the life of an invoice under this new system. Step 1. The transaction record is created internally on a company's software, exactly the way it is today. Step 2. It instantly submits to the synchronization layer. Step 3. The tax structure and format are validated against national standards. Step 4. The bill syncs with the central billing database, getting a unique national bill ID and a cryptographic signature. And finally, Step 5, the authenticated bill is issued to the customer. Now here's the wild part. This entire 5-step sequence happens in milliseconds. We're talking faster than a credit card swipe and completely invisibly to both the cashier and the customer.
So, the absolutely crucial point to take away is that continuous synchronization loop. A bill becomes legally valid only upon real-time synchronization with the NBS central database. This right here is the major paradigm shift. The proposal recognizes that a true structural solution means intervening at the exact moment of issuance. Waiting around to intervene during delayed annual filings or periodic e-filing mandates? That's simply too late. If a bill lacks this real-time sync, it can just be treated as unofficial or entirely invalid for tax purposes.
To make this work uniformly across the board,
Every single authenticated bill must contain a universal minimum set of fields. You have your standard seller identification, the unique national bill ID we just talked about, and an immutable transaction timestamp. But the real game changer is the digital markers. Every bill will have a QR code and a cryptographic signature. This is so incredibly empowering for everyday citizens. It means you can just pull out your smartphone, scan the receipt from a store, and instantly verify its authenticity yourself. It completely eliminates counterfeit receipts and seriously protects the consumer.
Of course, getting a whole country onto a system like this is no small feat. That brings us to Section 3, the 36-month rollout plan, focusing on accountability and enforcement.
Now, a major concern with any massive national IT rollout is how it's actually enforced. The philosophy here is called compliance incentive design. The goal is simply to make synchronization the path of least resistance, meaning it's actually simpler and cheaper to just sync than it is to find a workaround. A huge part of this is placing the obligation directly on the software vendors. If a company sells accounting or point-of-sale software in the country, they are legally obligated to provide a certified, built-in NBC integration. Plus, the system is designed really pragmatically. It accommodates temporary offline operation, using encrypted local storage for areas with spotty internet connectivity, so it ensures inclusion, rather than punishing rural businesses for having bad Wi-Fi. The legal finality just kicks in once the connection is restored and the sync completes.
Let's look at how this builds incrementally over 36 months, which is designed specifically to avoid massive overnight disruption. Phase 1 is the first year, and that's dedicated strictly to developing the core system and letting software vendors play around in a sandboxing testing environment. Moving into Phase 2, up to month 18, the system runs pilots with large enterprises. Then in Phase 3, adoption actually becomes mandatory for those large enterprises above a certain revenue threshold, while smaller businesses start getting onboarding support. Finally, Phase 4 covers the third year, and that rolls out universal adoption all the way down to the micro-enterprise level alongside those offline tools we just discussed. So it's a very steady, predictable ramp-up.
So, why go through all this effort? Let's get into Section 4, Fraud Prevention and Economic Intelligence, the actual strategic benefits.
Think about the way things are done now. Tax authorities relying on archaic annual audits. These are manual, they're periodic, and they're incredibly resource-intensive. Plus, they're always looking backward. The NBS replaces this completely with algorithmic anomaly detection. Because the central database is recording the entire seller-buyer invoice chain in real time, the system can continuously monitor for fraud. Tax authorities can finally redirect their valuable human resources away from routine, tedious checks and focus them entirely on complex investigations that get flagged by the algorithm.
The macroeconomic benefits here, what the proposal aptly calls the economic intelligence dividend, are honestly staggering. First, it virtually eliminates input tax credit fraud, simply because credits can only be claimed on NBS-authenticated bills. Second, it aggressively compresses the shadow economy by requiring even cash sales to be synced. Third, and perhaps the most exciting part for economists, it allows for near real-time GDP estimation. I mean, think about that for a second. Right now, governments essentially steer the economy while looking in a rearview mirror, waiting around for lagged quarterly surveys. With the NBS, they get the most comprehensive, real-time economic data set in national history. They get sectoral supply chain visibility and early warning signals for recession or inflation, allowing them to adjust policy dynamically. And this brilliantly illustrates a hidden upside. This isn't just about government data. The private sector actually wins big here too. Let me read you this quote from the proposal. Just as the standardization of banking infrastructure created the conditions for fintech innovation, NBS standardization of the billing layer will create conditions for a new generation of commercial software services. Basically, by creating a standardized, totally reliable data substrate, the NBS doesn't shrink the private software market, it actually expands it. We are talking about laying the foundation for new AI-powered cash flow forecasting, advanced analytics, and automated multi-entity reconciliation tools. The possibilities for innovation are just endless here. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Is real-time billing the final key to a fully transparent economy? The NBS proposal envisions a world where a structural intervention at the very foundation of commercial activity, just the simple invoice, creates a fundamentally trustworthy ecosystem. It achieves visibility and governability not by dictating how businesses run, but simply by standardizing the legitimacy of their transactions. It's a bold, one-time investment for perpetual returns. Think about how that transforms the way we do business. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. And as always, keep questioning how the systems around us are built. Catch you next time.